We are at day 23 of 75 Refined. I missed yesterday's quote. I didn't actually get a chance to read it. I will just read it today. It's from Dietrich Bonhoeffer. There is no way to peace along the way of safety, for peace means giving oneself completely to God's commandment. Excellent quote. Today's is from Winston Churchill, so around the same period of time, Bonhoeffer and Churchill during the World War II. What is the use of living if it not be to strive for noble causes and to make the world a better place? Excellent. All right, so today we are in 2 Samuel 17 through 24, wrapping up 2 Samuel, and then we're getting into 1st and 2nd Kings. So basically we're wrapping up the rest of David's kingdom. And so we get into the book here. Let me pull up my notes, and we'll get right into it. All right, so, whoop. A lot going on here. Yeah, you gotta scroll. Here we go. All right. So again, closing in on David's reign, and like most of David's life, it's complicated. So first we get into Absalom's death. So David's on the run. Absalom's rebellion collapses in 2 Samuel 18. David has told his commanders, deal gently with the young man Absalom for my sake. He's on the run from his son, but he doesn't want anything to happen to his son. Joab ignores him. Absalom is killed, and then David weeps, my son Absalom, if only I had died instead of you. This is the cost of earlier sin. The forgiveness is real, but consequences are as well. The kingdom's very fragile at this point. And there's another revolt in 2 Samuel 20 under Sheba. The kingdom is unified, but barely. It's barely holding on. There are tribal tensions. David is still the king, but the glory years are long, long behind him. We see a couple of songs of David, and I believe one of these is mirrors Psalm 18. I could be mistaken about that, but it just... So in 2 Samuel 22, the Lord is my rock, my fortress, my deliverer. And then in 2 Samuel 23, he speaks of a righteous ruler who will rule in the fear of God. And this is bigger than Solomon, right? This is something that's pointing forward beyond Solomon. Then we get into the census. So in 2 Samuel 24, David orders a census. It reveals the pride and his misplaced trust in his military strength. And this is where we see Gad, the other one of the king's seers. So there's Nathan and there's Gad. There's two people that speak into David's life from a spiritual standpoint. And let that encourage you all out there. It's important to have good, godly men in your life that can speak into you and can say things and allow them to say things without impunity. Just be like, sometimes it's going to hurt. Like Nathan had to he didn't tiptoe around the issue, what we talked about yesterday, but he didn't just come out and say, hey, you scoundrel, you said you dirty dog. What he did was he gave him a little parable, a little example. Let David's righteous indignation rise up, and then Nathan would say, aha, you're the one. And so he still had that authority to speak into his life. So there's Gad and there's Nathan. So Gad, known as the king's seer in this instance, brings David the Lord's discipline and gives him three options. You're either going to be on the run from your enemies, there's going to be a famine, or there's going to be a plague. You pick. So it's 3, 3, and 3. Either 3 years, 3 months, or 3 days. And earlier in David's life, Gad had guided him while he was still running from Saul. So there's another place where we see Gad. Just wanted to point that out. And then alongside Gad, we see Nathan. We talked about that already. So after the census, David confesses, I have sinned greatly. 70,000 died of the plague. And then David, once again, taking ownership. We see that with David. He's actually pretty good at taking ownership. I alone have sinned. These sheep, what have they done? He offers a sacrifice. And this is important too, because this is a few things happen here. One, he was offered the threshing floor and the ox free. Just take it. Whatever you need, my king, just take it. And David said, no, I'm not going to offer sacrifice to God that doesn't cost me anything. So David pays him for it, and this ends up becoming the future site of the temple. And so the judgment stops right there. The mercy meets sacrifice on that hill. And this is where we end up building the temple. And then we get into 1 Kings 1 and 2. The throne then gets passed over. So David is old. Adonijah tries to take the throne, so there's another attempt at a coup. And Nathan and Bathsheba intervene. They kind of step in. They're like, "Hey, David, this is what's going on. You already said that Solomon was going to be the one, so you need to make this official." So David charges Solomon. He says, "Be strong, keep your obligation to the Lord your God." And then this is where you see strength equals obedience. And then David dies in 1 Kings 2:10. And then we start to see the beginning of Solomon's reign. We really pick up into the next chapter where we always know Solomon is the wise king, and we'll see that come into play in tomorrow's reading. So we will get there. David says, "Let your hand fall on me." This is a Christ moment. Well, David is not Christ himself, but he's a foreshadow, he's an archetype of what Christ does. And Christ is a better David, he's a better Moses, he's a better Adam, he's a better Joshua. Christ is all of the things that these other archetypes are in different ways, but perfect. That's not to say that they are Christ, or Christ is them, but he shows that they were all a shadow of what was to come, and that is Christ. One day the son of David will say the same, and the judgment will actually come. One day a son of David will say the same thing, that your hand fall on me, and the judgment will actually fall on him. Again, that's Christ. The Temple Mount begins at the place where the plague stops through what? Through sacrifice. And then we see the kingdom move from David to Solomon, war to wisdom. But again, what's happening? That greater king is still coming. We are looking to that forthcoming king. I was kind of just skipping through. I know that I compiled the 75 refined, but I was just kind of skipping through. Man, we got some wild days ahead of us. Once we get through some of the readings, once we get into like day 55, 56, and 57. Look at day 57, just jumping ahead. We are literally going to be reading all of these books, not chapters, just books in one day. They're short books. They're the minor prophets. And minor in the sense that they're just smaller and not as big as like Isaiah or Ezekiel or Jeremiah. But anyways, so that's what we have for today. Lots happening here. Once again, the Book of Kings, while we are now in 1 Kings, it was originally just the Book of Kings, the Book of the Kings. And that was one book, and it was longer, but in the Septuagint it was split up. We'll see the same thing with the Book of Chronicles, which is two books, 1st and 2nd Chronicles. Originally it was one book, and it was called something. Chronicles is a good name for it. Also, the Annals is another name for it. Just a history book. This is Israel's history. That's all I have, friends. Once again, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the things, and leave your comments below. What did you pull out of the verses today? I love to hear it. Love to engage in the comment section, and we will see you tomorrow. God bless.